Hi, Neota.
Hi, Miri.
How are you?
I'm I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty well, and we're talking today about pain
That's right. That's right.
and and specifically the emotional layer that lives underneath the physical experience.
Yeah, because the human body is a closed system. And so everything works together. Emotions are tied to physical, and physical is tied to emotions. So it's you to treat one, you have to treat both. That's
Yeah,
the
we can.
that's the way to
So
have success.
yeah, we need to look at to take the holistic view and
Yeah.
to treat the entire system rather than to focus on the pain itself, what we know from our clients, and maybe anyone who watches now know it from their own experience that painkillers stop working at some time, right?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
need to bump up the dose and so on and so on, but then they stop working because it's not only physical.
It's not only physical. There is always an emotional component to all pain. And, you know, sometimes the pain is an accumulation of emotion, and sometimes the pain is a signal to address an emotional situation. But all
Correct.
pain, whether it is prolonged and chronic or whether it's short term, like even if you so much as stub your toe, um, it is a message that there's some sort of stuck emotion, and it might be fleeting. Like it might just be stuck in that day. You might be having an off day and you're a bit grumpy at yourself or at someone else. And bad things happen when you're in a bad mood. So you'll do something. You'll knock your elbow or stub your toe or bonk your head. And
Mhm.
it's that the location, the type of pain, and the duration and the intensity are not fleeting. They're not coincidental. It's a message.
It
So
is, and it goes with the emotional baggage. And I just want to take a little pause and talk quickly about the emotional baggage and what it means. And basically,
yes,
the from my experience, that the emotions that haven't processed emotional feelings that haven't processed completely, and they got stuck with us. So if we're looking at Louise Hay, for example, that you are following her for many years, if I'm looking at my work with the emotion code that was originated by Dr. Brad Nelson, we see that in any way and anyhow you look at it, there is some trapped emotions that we carry with us as if we are carrying a bag behind our back that's weighing us down.
yeah,
And after a while, it creates those kind of pains.
uh, absolutely. And I'm going to give a very specific example um, that is from a neurologist in New York, and she tells all of her clients that come to her with sciatica pain.
Mhm.
Sciatica pain is is like dead stop. Sciatica pain is unexpressed narcissistic rage. So every time somebody does not express their displeasure, uncomfortableness, or disappointment, it gets stored down and becomes rage. And when they are not expressing it for fear of repercussions, I'm not going to tell my spouse that I'm angry about this because I don't want them to be mad at me. I don't want to get into a fight about it. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or I don't want people to think badly about me. So I cram those emotions down until they become rage. And when they become unexpressed rage, it lodges in your sciatica. And if you shout, if you express that rage, if you yell at the people who need to be yelled at, whether you do it to them or maybe just in a safe place that you're comfortable with. It has to get expressed, and then your sciatica can heal. And that's just one example.
Yeah,
There's,
and we
you
see
know,
it with many things, right? And of course, just again to take a break and to say that every pain needs to be diagnosed before we even start working with it. We are not
absolutely.
diagnosing any
No,
pain.
no,
We ask that everyone who comes to us will first go to the medical physician, a medical professional, and diagnose the pain. But
absolutely.
we see that behind everything there is some emotions. Behind every pain there is some emotions, and Louise Hay mapped it
Yes.
very nicely.
I reference her book. I mean, some of it I've committed. Like I know sciatica pain. I know, digestive issues. I know back pain, and there's so many things that I know straight away because I've looked them up so many times. But I reference her resource when I'm for myself, for my family, for my clients. And it's always a place to start. And it explains what kind of emotion has become stuck.
Mhm.
And it covers everything. It covers everything from, you know, every medical issue and the pain associated with it. So whether it's in your eyes or your gut or your feet, there's always a corresponding emotion. And Louise Hay is very often accurate. I mean, I use it religiously, but it's not the be all and end all, but it's definitely a starting place.
Yeah, and I have to say that I have Louise Hay's book.
Yeah.
I also studied with someone um, who her book is not translated yet into English, but
Right.
she has a different map, but very similar map
Yeah.
to Louise Hay. Not like her approach is different than Louise Hay, but the mapping is very similar to what Louise
Yeah.
Hay is showing.
Because it's
Emotion
so,
code also it has mapping.
yep.
The mapping is a bit different though,
Yeah.
because it does like it shows where emotions are lodged, in what area in our body
Yeah.
emotions are lodged. But she goes very much into details about, if we're looking at inflammation versus if we're looking at um, back pain, or, anything like this, migraine.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Rashes.
she goes into details. And I want to talk about this emotional baggage because what I noticed that very often when the emotional baggage is being released, so take it a step back. Once we discuss the emotional baggage related to the pain,
Yes.
the pain is being not not released completely, but it feels better.
Right. Right. Right.
And then once we release the emotional baggage, the pain most often is released with it. And I just want to give some example to what we did, okay, to what I did, and then you can give some examples of what you did. So, for example, guilt.
Yep.
Guilt, we see besides sleep that
Yes.
can be messed up because of guilt, the feeling of guilt, whether it's real guilt or maybe it's imagined guilt, but still guilt
Right.
for what it
Right.
is.
Right.
Pain was completely released once we
Yeah.
identified the guilt and
Release.
worked with the guilt, not even with the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. You cure the emotion and the body heals itself.
Yeah, so guilt, for what I saw, guilt, hatred is another big
Yep.
one.
Yes.
Um, Jealousy,
Yep.
blaming, grief.
Yep.
So when I say blaming, I mean blaming others and blaming myself.
Right.
Again, everything really imagined, right?
Yes.
And feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. It's again, it's a feeling of victim
Yeah.
unconsciously. We know that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So we're,
The
it's
underlying,
not
and then
about judging or not judging, right? It's about
yeah.
accepting what it is. But when once feels it, those emotions that I said, at least for my experience, and we
Yeah.
can address them and we can release them and we can treat them for what you and I do in hypnosis and
Yeah.
other modalities, um, then the pain is being relieved or released.
Yes. Yes. And of course, anger. Anger is
Anger,
very,
anger. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot it.
no,
Yeah, anger.
of course. No, but because they're so big, right? Anger and fear
Yes.
have so many, there's so many derivatives, right? So we have three primal emotions. We're born with anger, fear, love. Love is the most powerful and the most predominant, but anger and fear are primal emotions. So if you think about like the color chart of um, red, blue, yellow, then every other color is some sort of combination of those three colors. And that's the same true of all of our emotions. It's like 2 parts fear and 3 parts anger and 1 part love, or, like, so all of our emotions those are the core emotions. And then every other emotion is a creation of those. And they each have their specific organs that they target, illness or disease that they present as, and they can all be identified, they can all be resolved and
Yeah.
overcome, all of them. And the human body is the most sophisticated self-healing organism. So no matter how bad the body is suffering, there's always hope of overcoming it. Always.
Yeah. And I want to say one more thing because, and this is what I wrote down here. You mentioned anger, and it is very big because since we are young, we've been taught that it's not good to be angry. There is no
Right.
use of being angry, and so we are. This anger is built up in our body, and then it needs to express itself somehow. And
Yes.
we see very often that it's being expressed through pain or illnesses.
Yeah. Dis-ease. Dis-ease in your emotions creates dis-ease in your body, whether that is a temporary affliction or a chronic one, but it is always represented in your physical body. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. And anger, I don't know how I forgot it, but anger is a
No.
huge one. Um, that once we learn how to look, create a different view of the world and us in the world, the anger by itself reduces,
Yes.
and we don't need, like, as you mentioned, the formula of love, fear, and anger. The anger is not dominant or dominating the this formula anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So and then it's not about don't be angry, don't be mad. It's like I don't need to be. I don't express this feeling. I don't feel anger anymore, or I feel it, but not to that intensity anymore.
Yes. Yes. And like you said, give it permission. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to stay angry. It's not healthy to stay angry.
Not healthy, yeah. And there is another thing that comes up to my mind is that the dissociation from our body. Once we experience chronic pain, meaning for
Yes.
more than 3 months,
Yes.
uh, we start, not liking our body so much, not
Exactly.
appreciate it that much, and
Yeah.
want to change many things instead of listening to the body. And I think this is another layer that is like the ability to relate to our body, to understand this, we have only one body to live in throughout our life, and listen to what the body has to say,
Yes.
to the messages that we need to hear, and sometimes we don't want to.
Of course, we
Right?
don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't want to admit a weakness or an imperfection, a flaw.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
uncomfortable.
so we don't have to like our body, but we need to accept it because, this is what we have. Our body is part of our subconscious mind.
Yes.
And it shows us so many things that if we are starting to pay attention, our life can be much more fuller and
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yes. Yes. We're so passionate about this topic. We're going to definitely have some more sessions about this and talk about all things related to pain and the mind body connection and
Yeah.
how we can help our clients with the emotion and the physical that are tied together. Yeah. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Miri Malkin. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist, emotion code practitioner, and a coach. I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I see my clients mostly over Zoom, but also in person. I see them for mostly anxiety, sleep, chronic pain, and fertility issues. Um,
Yes.
how about you, Neota?
Well, I am Neota Tinkler, and I am in Nanaimo, British Columbia. I see clients in person at Vancouver Island Therapy, and I see clients online from anywhere in the world. My main clientele is with trauma and overcoming trauma, whether that's physical or emotional, and all things connected with that, as well as anxiety and any other kind of issues that if you have an issue, hypnotherapy can help be a complement to relieving it. So I am a clinical hypnotherapist as well as laughter therapy coach for groups, and I do handwriting analysis because the human body is a closed system and your subconscious is revealed through your handwriting. Very interesting.
Very
So
interesting.
our contact details are below, and we love questions and inquiries. We would address anything. Miri and I would address that as we get together and do these talks about all things hypnosis.
Yeah. So until next time, thank you so
Until
much.
next. Thank you, Miri.
Bye bye.